How we doing? Good? Okay, thank you for being quiet. Yesterday we talked about how themes in fiction are like central ideas in nonfiction. And as we read the book, as we come across new information, we rethink those ideas. Right? Yes? I got a quote on the board. It says, nonfiction writers are storytellers who take an oath, or who took an oath to tell the truth. Who knows what an oath is? What's an oath, if you take an oath? Like in the courtroom, you take an oath when you say, I swear to tell the truth and nothing but, it's an oath, a promise, right? So tell your partner, I want you to tell your partner what this quote means. Say it in other words to your partner. You could translate it to Korean if you want for your partner. Yeah. Got it? So, does anyone want to say this in Korean? Who can do it? Ethan. Nice and loud.
In Korean?
Yeah.
사실을 바탕으로 하는 작가는 이야기를 알려주는 사람 중 성서로 부족한.
That's so many words. So what's the real gist, the real point of this, right? Is that stories are also a part of nonfiction texts, right? It's just the stories are true; they're not made up, right? So I want you to give me a thumbs up if you've read a story inside your nonfiction text. So there was a story about a person or an event. Give me a thumbs up if you've read a story in your book. If there was a story in your book, like a story about a person or an event or a place. Yes, in your case it is. So, just as I suspected, stories are in all of your books. And as readers of nonfiction texts, we've got to pay attention to that. Because we know that writers, when they write a book, it takes a long time. And they put a lot of thought into their book. So if there's a story in the book, there's a reason for it. Right? It was done on purpose. To teach you something, to show you something, to make you feel something. Okay? We're going to practice that today. And it will help us, we're going to consider how embedded stories connect to central ideas. Right, so just like details help us rethink central ideas, stories do the same thing. Right? They'll help us rethink central ideas. They may also show us new central ideas. So we're going to practice that today. And we're going to start with a short reading from Fast Food Nation. So in this part, we'll be hearing a story about a worker. Okay? So I want you to listen, and when I'm done, I'm going to ask you to tell the person next to you what you heard, and then we'll talk about how this story connects to the central idea we came up with yesterday. Ready to go? Here we go. So this girl, her name is Elisa. You ready, CJ? Okay. Every Saturday, Elisa Zamo gets up at 5:15 in the morning. It's a struggle, and her head feels groggy as she steps into the shower. Her little sisters, Cookie and Sabrina, are fast asleep in their beds. By 5:30, Elisa's showered, done her hair, and put on her McDonald's uniform. She's 16. Bright-eyed and olive-skinned, pretty and petite, ready for another day of work. Elisa's mother usually drives her the half mile or so to the restaurant, but sometimes Elisa walks, leaving home before the sun rises. Her family's modest townhouse sits behind a busy highway on the south side of Colorado Springs, in a largely poor and working-class neighborhood. Throughout the day, sounds of traffic fill the house, the steady whoosh of passing cars. But when Elisa heads for work, the streets are quiet. The sky is still dark, and the lights are out in the small houses and rental apartments along the road. Okay, let's begin. We learn a little bit about Elisa. Tell each other what you heard. Let's say, paraphrase what you heard. Shelly, you want to tell me? What did you hear?
The town that she lives in is
Okay. Albert, what do you think about Elisa?
Elisa is young, but she works.
She's young, but she works, right? She's a high school student. Maybe 10th or 11th grade. 16 years old. 5:15 on a Saturday morning. It's pretty hard, right? She should be resting her brain, resting her body for school. Right? But she goes to work. What else do we learn about Elisa? I wrote some things that came to my head when I read this the first time. I wrote down, she's a 16-year-old employee at McDonald's in a poor working-class neighborhood. 5:15 in the morning. Right? She goes to work, or she gets up for work at 5:15. That's pretty early. She has two younger siblings. She's the oldest child in her house. Her home and other apartments are near the highway. Right, and this suggests that it's a lower, the property value is lower next to the noisy highway. So as we read this, our first thing to think about is what's going on? Who's Elisa? What does she do? This is her. The next step is to ask, why is the author including this? What do we learn about the fast food industry from this story? And does it connect to our central idea from before? So let's think. Does it connect to this? Fast food companies taking advantage of people? How does it connect? Exactly. So what we see here is that this story is a good example of what we're saying with the central idea. Because she's young, she's got to get up early in the morning, she's from a low-income neighborhood, right? Her family doesn't have a lot of money. She probably works to support her family, and she probably gives her money to her mom. Right? Probably not putting it in her bank and using it for stuff that she wants. Right? So, Elisa is an example. Right? This example supports the central idea from yesterday. And we're going to read more. We're going to see if we have any more support or maybe some new central ideas. Okay? When Elisa arrives at McDonald's, the manager unlocks the door and lets her in. Sometimes the husband and wife cleaning crew are just finishing up. More often, it's just Elisa and the manager in the restaurant, surrounded by an empty parking lot. For the next hour or so, the two of them get everything ready. They turn on the ovens and grills. They go downstairs into the basement and get food and supplies for the morning shift. They get paper cups, wrappers, cardboard containers, and packets of condiments. They step into the big freezer and get the frozen bacon, frozen pancakes, frozen cinnamon rolls. They get the frozen hash browns, frozen biscuits, and the frozen McMuffins. They get the cartons of scrambled egg mix and orange juice. They bring the food upstairs and start preparing it before any customers appear, thawing some things in the microwave and cooking other things on the grill. They put the cooked food in special cabinets to keep it warm. The restaurant opens for business at 7 o'clock. And for the next hour or so, Elisa and the manager hold down the fort, handling all the orders. As the place starts to get busy, other employees arrive. Elisa works behind the counter. She takes orders and hands food to customers from breakfast through lunch. When she finally walks home, after 7 hours of standing at a cash register, her feet hurt. She's wiped out. She comes through the front door, flops onto the living room couch, and turns on the TV. And the next morning, she gets up at 5:15 again and starts the same routine. So turn and talk. What did we hear this time that connects to what we've already said about fast food workers and the fast food industry? How does this connect to what we already know, the central idea we have already? Advanced people. And what does this story? Why do you think they're all telling us this story? Okay, so anything you want to share? There was a lot of talk. It sounded great. I heard lots of good stuff. I heard people say one of the things that stuck out was when she arrives at work, somebody unlocks the door. Someone that's inside. Right? So there are people that work overnight to clean the place. That jumped out at me. I repeated the word frozen like 100,000 times. Purposely, right? The author put frozen, 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 because they want us to know something, right? What do they want us to know? Yeah, most of the food is frozen. Okay, so one new central idea I could take from this story is that perhaps fast food is different. It's just a different kind of food. It's prepared differently. It's made of different stuff. We'll see. We'll talk more about that. But this could be a second central idea I see coming out of here. Now, how does this connect to fast food companies taking advantage of people. What else did you say? I heard a lot of talk. Does anybody want to share? So let's think. What's the reason why the author put this story in the book? Why is the author telling us about Elisa? That's right, to show how devastating it is. To bring that central idea that they take advantage of workers. Right? That sounds terrible. McDonald's takes advantage of workers. But when the author puts in this story about Elisa, a 16-year-old, right, and gives us all this information about her and tells us about her day and everything she does, it makes more of an impact. Right? So when you guys see stories in your books, a light needs to go off in your head. Right? The author put this in here for a reason. I need to pay attention to it, because I know that it's there for a reason, and it's full of information that'll help me grow my ideas about the central idea in the text. Right? So that's the work I want you to continue today. Okay, when you go back, think about your central ideas. Pay close attention to stories the author includes in the text. You guys ready to do that? Mark, you ready? Go for it. Fighting.
Ready, steady,